Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Manchester City drew, unfortunately, yesterday, 1-1 away at Aston Villa, and it was a frustrating day of football, but you know what they say, you often learn from your failures, and this is a good time to look at Manchester City's performance yesterday and look at 5 things that we took from that game, that I took from that game personally, and analyse it in a little bit closer detail. Before I do that, I would like to say, please go and download OneFootball right now. Click the link in the description. Do it right now and get one of the best apps on the market. It's absolutely wonderful. You get all the news about every team, every player, every goal from across the world of football. So what are you waiting for? It's great for stats and all that kind of stuff, for backing up your arguments and getting any breaking news. And football's crazy these days. There is always breaking news, and it does help support my channel a little bit. So go and download it right now by clicking the link in the description below. It's massively appreciated, and you're all awesome. You are, it's a fact. Anyway, also subscribe to the channel if you are new. Closing on 65k, it'd be wonderful to get there. Do it, and give the video a like while you're at it. So, I always like to start off with these things with a positive, you know, just because, well, why not? You know, there's no point in dwelling on the negatives always. And I'm going to start with a place that I want to. 6 and 10 I put at the bottom. I just want to draw attention to, once again, just how great Erling Haaland is. I actually thought he was our best forward yesterday as well, constantly trying to make things happen, working really hard for the team. And once again, he got the kind of goal that we've been lacking for years now. That big boot at the back post, leapt ridiculously high to get on the end of Kevin De Bruyne's cross. A KDB assist and a Haaland goal is always a positive after a day like this, because it's what you want to see, isn't it? 6 in 10 is quite remarkable, you know that, but I'm going to put it into context. He's already scored the same amount of Premier League goals that Timo Werner scored in 2 seasons at Chelsea. He scored 10 in like 50 odd games. He's already got that. That's ridiculous. He's broken a record already for most goals at this stage of the Premier League season. Of course he has. I think it's a Manchester City record as well. And of course, you know, he did it without really breaking a stride. He's a wonderful footballer, and it shows as well, when you've got Haaland, you have got a chance. In general, he's going to get us out of some bad moments. I mean, he wasn't perfect yesterday, but no one was around him. But still, 6 in 10 is quite remarkable. And yesterday, the fact that he only scored 1 goal and it felt relatively, yeah, all right, it shows just how good that this freakish footballer is that we've got. We're going to see more and more and more, and he could be breaking many, many records. Great player, and already more goals than Jesus scored last season in the league for us as well, by the way, which is just, he's stupid, man. He's stupid. Second thing is an interesting talking point. Like, you know me on this channel, I always like to be really fair to players because they are human beings like you are and like I am. And I know there's times when I've done videos for 2 months and looked at videos and gone, they're not that good. I've just gone through the motions because I'm tired and I've got lots on, be it when I was organising my wedding or when Nicola was pregnant or whatever, or even, you know, I think my videos have been good for the past month, even though I've been really busy. But I guess the point I'm making is my form goes up and down, your form goes up and down, everyone does in every form of life, and I always like to look at the bigger picture before writing a player off or whatever. And now, I guess the context of this is I do think Walker's form is a little bit off right now. But before I turn around and go, Walker is finished, which I've seen so many people say on Twitter already. Of course, it's Twitter, so people like to just jump to conclusions. I always like to see a body of evidence first before suggesting that. And a few games at the start of the season and maybe 1 or 2 at the back end of last season aren't evidence to suggest that. I do remember, and cast your minds back because it did happen. It absolutely guaranteed happened. I do remember people writing off Kevin De Bruyne last season. Kevin De Bruyne. I remember doing a video saying, look, you know, in around October, saying if we're still here in a few months' time and his form's still off, then maybe I'll consider it. But let's give him a little bit of time to find his best form. And still, if it's bad, then I'll consider it. But, you know, guess what happened? He found his form again. And Kevin De Bruyne deserved that because he was Kevin De Bruyne. And Kyle Walker deserves this because he's Kyle Walker. Now, his form has been a little bit ropey. I can't deny it. Mainly because it feels like the role he's been asked to play, his passing's been a little bit off, which isn't great, and he's probably our weakest passer in the team. I still think he's a perfectly fine passer, but his inadequacies as a passer only show when we ask him to break the lines and play these glamorous through balls, which he clearly doesn't have the ability to do. Now, either 2 things happen here. He either adapts to it and gets better and recovers his form, which is possible. Or 2, Guardiola goes, this isn't quite working, I'll reduce it, reduce the demands on Kyle Walker, and we change the system a little bit. Either way, they are fine. If you think Guardiola doesn't notice what we're noticing, then you are insanely arrogant, genuinely. Like, Guardiola sees everything we've already seen seconds beforehand. And my point with that is, it's not worth stressing over because Guardiola will either ask him to stop doing it or they'll fix it. They are the only two outcomes, really. Guardiola will not persist in something that doesn't work for a very long time. He's doing it right now to get Walker to try these things to see if he can adapt. And if he carries on being a negative for City, of course he will change it. There's one thing Guardiola always notices, is a misplaced pass. We know he gets more frustrated than anything. We see him on the sidelines going crazy. So that's why I'm calm about Kyle Walker. His form right now is a little bit off, but he's earned our respect with some great performances over the year. He's been our probably best ever right back, arguably. So he deserves a little bit of patience, man, before we throw him under the bus and toss him onto the scrap heap. I think it's unfair. So Kyle Walker, his form is off, but give him time or let Guardiola fix it. Because, for one, Guardiola's earned that trust, and so's Kyle Walker. It's not too much to ask. The third thing for me is that we missed Alvarez, which is crazy. I mean, it could be that we just had a bad day, and I think we did just have a bad day, and we've won games without Alvarez on the pitch before, etc., etc. But I do think, weirdly, yesterday, we probably missed Alvarez his enigmatic approach to games. Alvarez has this very Wasper-like approach where he buzzes around and he's there and here. He's a nightmare to pick up because he has this energy. And yesterday, we probably could have done with a little bit of that unpredictability. Maybe it might have made no difference. As Guardiola said, when usually precise players have such an off day, there's not much you can do about it. And usually, you can trust one of the likes of Haaland or De Bruyne or Gundogan or whatever to at least bury one chance. But yesterday was just too many had an off day, and maybe Alvarez would have come on the pitch and done the same. That is a very fair point to point out. He also might have come on the pitch and won us the game. I don't know. But it did feel to me yesterday that Alvarez could have been the obvious substitution. Now, Guardiola didn't bring him on. That, I can only presume, is intentional. Guardiola has an ability, unlike us as fans, to often see the bigger picture and know exactly when a player should sit out 90 minutes and when they should come on and substitute. I can only presume they've gone, Alvarez is not coming on because we need to make sure we can manage his game time unless he absolutely has to. And I guess Guardiola didn't think 1-1 was a case of absolutely having to. It is what it is. I don't always necessarily agree, but look, there's always a method to Guardiola's madness, and I have to respect that. But I think it's very telling and very positive for Julian Alvarez that City yesterday looks a little bit toothless and a little bit lacking energy and ideas up front. That is going to help his form. His claim to a starting place in this team a lot. And I think we're going to see an awful lot of this guy. The next point is one I'm reluctant to talk about too much because I think, once again, going back on what we said, Kyle Walker, it's too soon to make these conclusions. But I do think Foden's form right now isn't at his sparkling best. That's fine. He's only young. Footballers go up and down constantly. Once again, humans are cyclical. They have good spells and bad spells. And I don't think Foden's having a bad spell, but I think Foden's level is so good that an indifferent spell or just an okay spell, is notable. Right now, it feels to me Foden isn't at his scintillating best. Cast your mind back 2 years ago when Foden was running at Dortmund and PSG's defence and being absolutely crucial in the Champions League. And Phil, if you're watching this, come on, be you. But cast your mind back to those moments and you remember Phil Foden on the left wing with glittering ability, running at people, making things happen and so on, and driving through the midfield. And it feels right now he's had his wings clipped a little bit. I'm not sure he has or not, but I do wonder if all that stuff about passing to Haaland or whatever has got to him a little bit to the point where he's compensating far too much. Sometimes you've got to be careful, and I'm putting this at some of the fans watching this, what you ask for. You make such a big deal on the internet about someone misplacing one pass or not making the right decision once that they can go the other way. The thing that you're trying to fix can become a bigger problem. Then you get someone who's too cautious. I know people don't think they have any influence on these things, but you genuinely do. You do. That's what you've got to remember, to keep things in proportion. I'm not blaming the fans, of course, but I'm saying it's possible that Phil now is oversimplifying his game to a little bit to try and be one for the team, where what made Phil Foden sometimes so exciting is those moments of magic where he did things by himself and showed us that world-class ability that he's got when he's on form to beat people and make a little bit of magic happen. It probably doesn't help him, by the way, that in general, he's got no one overlapping, which is he often sort of did with Zinchenko helping a little bit winning the Champions League. So he can't really drive inside because Cancelo's in that space and Haaland's in that space, and the space for him to run into is just changed a little bit. But I do think he's probably being a little bit too cautious and trying to get his game back into the rhythm and trying to learn how to slow things down like Guardiola often demands. But I think he needs to find the balance of when to be cautious and when to run at people. I want to see him being back to it, and I'm sure you'll get there in time. And I'm sure Guardiola is once again aware we have to be patient, which is my final point. Patience is necessary. It always feels like the world is caving in when we drop points. It always does. I know. But I would honestly, I'm not trying to be a happy clapper. It does annoy me, by the way, when people accuse me of being a happy clapper just because I refuse to lose my mind because of a draw. when we're in the 6th game of the season, when we're unbeaten still. It's just how it is. It drives me mad. Don't ever question my integrity, please. I say what I think always in a nice way. But anyway, I digress there. But it does lose my mind. It does bug me a little bit when people lose their patience so early on. It's the 6th game of the season. I know it doesn't feel early because football feels like it's been going on forever, but it is early. It is. In the grand scheme of things, there's still over 80% of the season left. Manchester City are still trying to find their rhythm. And the way I see it, these first 7, 8, 9, 10 games, they are where Guardiola really, really starts to learn about your squad for the season. You get to the transfer window, it's done, and then you get all your players together, you try a few ideas, you see what does work. Guardiola sees who he can trust and in what roles he can trust them and what doesn't work. And what you do is then you try and blend all those things together, and come the winter period where you get games back to back to back to back, Guardiola, every single time he fixes it, and Manchester City get their rhythm, you get their cadence, and they start to go on these massive winning runs. And we see it all the time. It's so predictable. It happens every single year. It genuinely does. City start relatively okay and then go on big winning runs. And it's not a coincidence that it happens. It isn't because City are lazy at the start of the season. No, it isn't. It's because the way that Manchester City play is so intricate, it's so complicated, and it's so demanding, and Guardiola is so demanding on the players with the new faces and the slight tweaks he makes that it takes a little bit of time to get going. But once it does click, it's so hard to stop. But that is the thing. Like, City style is harder to learn, but once you get into the rhythm again, it becomes so what's it called? It becomes so automated and becomes so fully focused that it becomes mesmerising to watch. That's what happens. And City aren't quite there. They haven't fully got the rhythm, but it will happen. Guardiola uses this chance to assess his side, and then he gets it right when the game's coming around. And we are getting close to that. Like, I would rather make mistakes at this stage of the season now, where Guardiola can fix it, and also while not losing games, because right now we're in a good position. You know, as I'm recording this, Arsenal United are playing. Maybe Arsenal would, I don't know. But either way, the table looks totally fine for us. We're in a good position. Man City are looking very good, so you've got to be patient. The temptation is to cry over Aston Villa taking points from us, but that is football. Football does that, man. We've seen it a billion times, and guess what? It happened in every season that we won the league under Guardiola, even some of our record-breaking seasons. But we still won the league anyway, you know? And that shows you that it's very, very normal. It is normal, to quote Mr. Mancini. So, guys, they are 5 things that I took from the game. Of course, we talk about loads of little things, but to me, it's a couple of positives there. But also, some, observations based on some form at the moment. Let me know what you thought down in the comments, of course, as well. Go and download OneFootball. And thank you to all the patrons currently scrolling down the side of the screen. The lifeblood of this channel, alongside the YouTube members. And you guys, of course, watching this video are the lifeblood too. But these guys, it's a little bit extra. And it definitely does help to keep the lights on, given the utility crisis right now. Thank you very much for watching. Please do hit the subscribe button. Let's get to 65k. And let's get like 1,000 likes on this video if we can. Boom, boom, boom. Have a good evening. Bye-bye. See you later, guys.